Welcome back to another episode of Rocket Tabletop.
Hello.
Today we're doing something a little bit different.
Yes.
And we're going to be painting.
I'm excited. It is something that we've been wanting to do again for a while, but we haven't done it in a while. Yet here we are.
So as you can tell from our camera angle, you're not going to look at us today.
Nope.
Even though I don't think anyone watches our videos, so it doesn't
But
really
if
matter.
you are, you got a great view.
Oh yeah, I mean tits and this bicep.
Ooh.
So we've got our paintbrushes.
We got our paints.
We got everything.
I really am just excited to show off how pretty and rainbow our paints are.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into that.
So we are using Citadel paints today, but on this episode we're going to talk about all different types.
Yes.
Different things.
We will be.
So firstly, I'm going to be painting this gentleman, who's a nosy.
You want to show him off?
Yeah.
I'll do it and then
I'll frame it.
So we've got an unpainted. It's not wanting to. Oh no. Can't get it to work now. Well, for viewers at home, you can't tell, but he's a Arabian prince. I'm going to call him an Arabian prince.
And then what are you going to be painting today?
I'm going to be painting some more animals because I love painting animals. I think I'm going to paint at the beginning a little ox.
Little Oxy boy.
Little oxy boy.
Which we've already
Because
undercoated. I haven't undercoated this. So this is going to be another experiment of ours.
It really doesn't want to focus.
I mean,
That's all right.
yeah, who knows?
Yep.
So it's going to be another experiment of doing a black undercoated mini compared to a
Pre-painted.
pre-undercoated mini. So that's what this episode's about. We're just going to do the comparisons between the two.
And then just talk a bit about painting and why people like painting.
Yeah. So Jasmine wrote down some dot points for this one today. While she does that, I'm going to decide to paint this gentleman purple because why the flip not?
I'm not sure if most of you do this, but when I paint my mini, I like to get inspiration online because for some reason when it comes to painting, I suddenly forget what they look like. So
You don't know what an ox looks like?
Yep, that's what I'm doing. I know what an ox looks like, but now I'm also looking up someone else's pre-paint. You put hair on it.
I mean, I can spare some of mine if you want.
Yeah. So, I'll be painting it with lots of browns, which is cool. This is going to be hard because I'm so used to concentrating. When we paint, sit in silence.
Yeah, it's because I also don't like talking to you. That's why.
You're so rude. So, first and foremost is, would you paint, when it comes to painting minis, do you prefer buying a pre-painted mini where you don't have to, or do you enjoy painting minis yourselves?
So, with myself personally, I love painting. I'm not good at it, but I love it.
Yeah.
I grew up doing Warhammer and especially the Lord of the Rings tabletop game. That was like my shit. And from that, like that was like a big pastime between my mum and myself was painting.
Cute.
But if you saw our latest Instagram post, you see that I actually really like having the pre-painted minis as well. It's not only the gambling aspect that you get from getting a blind box, but it's also it's just everything's done for you.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about painting it.
Because we have a lot of minis.
Yeah.
And a large majority of them are unpainted because, well, when we decided to do our podcast, we kind of put painting on hold because we really only have time about once a week to paint. And now that time once a week is being substituted with doing the podcast.
Also, there was a couple of weeks there in the middle that we just didn't paint. We just wanted to take a day off sort of thing.
I feel like painting, you've got to be like in the mindset and in the mood to invest that much time and concentration on minis, which is again why I love doing it. But
yeah. So then would you say that you prefer getting the pre-painted minis?
Over painting? No. I thought I was going to say yes because I do enjoy the fact that I don't have to paint them myself and they come pre-painted, but there's something so satisfying and rewarding painting the mini, and in the process I don't really think I've met anyone that doesn't hate their first mini or in the process of painting it go, nah, this shit, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm mad, to actually finishing it and then being like, oh, that actually turned out much better than I thought and I'm really happy with it, which is really cool.
See, we have the trick now of where we just paint it in colors that we like and then we give it a coat of whatever wash that we like at the time, so the brown one or the black one.
Yep, turns out.
And turns out it gives it like it goes from like a 6 to like a 10.
Yes, it really does. If any of you haven't invested in washes, definitely go down to your local, would you say minis?
I would say anywhere that sells minis, yeah.
Store and grab some. Citadel is the paints that we're using today. Have great washes as well.
Well, we haven't used it. Okay, so disclaimer to anyone listening: we're not pro painters.
Nope.
I painted a lot younger.
Yep.
I taught you slightly how to paint minis to a basic standard from what I remember being taught back in the day. So anything that we do isn't a guide to how to paint minis.
Yeah. No, God, we have zero idea. And I think the best way for any beginners out there, just dive in, just start painting, pick up a paintbrush, pick up some paints, grab a $10 minis from your local game store or anywhere that sells them, and start painting.
So here's a question for you, Jazz. Since you started later on and I got you to buy the Dungeons and Dragons paint starter pack that came with that one character. Do you remember what his name was?
Minsk. Now I can't do it. Minsk and Boo.
Yeah.
He's a little bald boy.
So you did that, but you've also, which is Vallejo branded paint.
Yep.
You've experienced them, but we've also been using Citadel paints.
Yes.
Which one have you preferred, and which one do you think is a better starting point? Do you reckon getting a Warhammer starting kit thing with some paints?
Okay. Are we including price?
I think just like an overall
as an
for
overall.
Anyone. Yeah.
I think starting with the Nolza set, so the what is it called?
Vallejo.
Paints I think are a great starting point. One, I'm putting in consideration of colors, price point, the way that the paints sit / how they're bottled, and the fact that they also come with a set of brush as well. Purely because $40. When it comes to Citadel paints, if any of you guys have Citadel paints at home, they're very expensive. One bottle is like what, $6 to $8?
Yeah, $6 to $8.
$6 to $8 depending on which ones you're getting. So in $40, what's that? You're only getting about 5 of them. So it's not really.
Wow, how unprofessional! Getting a phone call in the middle of a podcast.
It's not as cost effective as the D&D starter painting sets are, because when you're looking at brushes can get very expensive very quickly. Because how much is a normal brush, would you say?
Like $12, 12 to $20.
So for $40, you're getting 10 paints, a brush, and a mini, all ready to get going, which is pretty cool. The brush size is a extra small, I think it is. I've got it here. Just says starter. It does not say size.
Well, I don't know, but from my experience, I don't think Vallejo does brushes. So I think the paintbrush that's included in the D&D starter set is just like a generic paintbrush.
Yes.
From what I've experienced, as like just a general brush, I would say if you're going for the Citadel ones.
He's a brown boy now.
He's a brown ox. You get a medium-sized brush because with that you can do big broad strokes. You can do slight details, as well as you can coat with it. You can. I'll just pull it closer. No, it's not gonna work. Okay, don't just hold down the button. It's not gonna change anything. I think that the medium brush is just, if you go to get a medium layer brush.
Okay.
And then from that, I don't know. I've had the most versatility with the single brush, and I own a big variety. Like I even have, if you're watching it at home, I have a special minuscule, extra small artificer layer brush, which has a special container for it. That's how premium it is.
I know, and he gets really angry when I don't put it away.
It cost me like $40. But yeah, in terms of just using a single brush, I reckon just go for a medium layer brush for Citadel anyway. I don't know about other brands. I think that's a big issue with the Citadel brand. It's like, oh, you want to do undertones? Cool, you have to get an undertone brush. You want to do a base coat? Cool, get the base tone brush. You don't really need that.
No.
And then recently, I've actually started investing in some very cheap makeup brushes. Because is it the foundation brush, the big puffy cloud one? is really good for dry brushing.
Do you mean the flat one, the fan?
No, it's like the
Yes,
poof
foundation.
one. That's fantastic for dry brushing anything.
Yeah, because it's wide, it's got a lot of bristles.
It's very soft as well, soft to
Yeah.
the touch, and it doesn't hold a lot of ink or paint or whatever you're using. Also, we paint with paints. We don't paint with inks. So that's a big difference too.
There's people painting with ink.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think it's the contrast paints are actually watered down inks.
Fancy.
Yeah. It's a bit fancy. Oh, I'm getting messages too. Ooh. We're so popular today. We actually have friends.
Never do.
Yeah.
Well, mine's my family, so it doesn't count. I wish it was friends. Yeah, but that's where we are for now. Little brown boy. I'm gonna go over and probably give him a bit of a red top, just because Oxy boys. I think of Highland cows.
Oh, okay.
The really hairy, cute ones that have like little fluffy face.
Yeah, this is surprisingly much harder than I thought it was going to be. This was a bad idea. We're not skilled enough.
No, God, no. We're struggling to like stay talking as a podcast.
So then we have like another point here of the different brands of minis. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about Warhammer. Mm-hmm. But there's other ones as well. So we invest a lot of money in the WizKids / Nolzes.
Yeah, Nolza.
Yeah, which is WizKids anyway. There's also like Reaper Bones, but we personally don't like them. We think they're a bit chubby.
Not a fan.
Like,
Some people love them.
I'm a big boy.
Yep.
And I know I'm a big boy. My minis don't have to be big boys.
No. No, I agree. So the size of the Nolzes, though, that's why a lot of people buy the Reaper when they make the big ones, so like dragons and that kind of stuff. People like buying the big ones because they're chunky. But yeah, personally, I don't think we have any Reaper. Oh, we've got a few that were a gift to us.
Is that the Metal Bear? Is that a Reaper one? Do they do a metal series? I think they do.
I think they do.
Yeah. So we've got them. We just don't like that size. And then the other day, so we went to CanCon, which is a convention for board games
based in our local area.
Mm-hmm. And we found a new brand called War Runes, which is from like 2014 or some shit.
Yeah.
And the minis looked cool. I think they were pre-painted, but they were big.
Yes.
And then so that's the next point that we have to go to is the different scales that minis come in. So the standard Nolzes WizKid brands. No, whatever. Fucking the N one or the W ones. They're a 28mm mini. Mm-hmm. And that's the standard that we like. That fits in the 1-inch bases and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's the Warhammers are 32 mils. I think the bases are the same, but it's the actual height of the minis.
The minis themselves. So a standard, like stock standard man for D&D, where they make them, the WizKids minis / Nolzes, are 28. So we've talked about it before. I also 3D print models.
I'm going to go grab a Warhammer mini while you're painting.
And because I 3D print as well, you need a scale, obviously, to base your buildings around the size of your people as well. So I 3D print all my scenery and buildings to a scale of a 28 mil mini man, which is cute. But there's certain other tabletop games and Warhammer where they are, what did you say, 30 or 32?
I think they're 32, but I'm not 100%. So
which is a size difference, yeah.
Like this is a what is it? A Space Marine Space Wolf, just a standard. I think it's an intercessor, and its base is obviously bigger. It's like twice the size. Mm-hmm. And then just standing next to each other, you can definitely see. Oh, I mean, the height's the same,
roughly the same,
but the thickness is what really gets it.
It's a huge difference.
So then, like, you have to decide on what base that you're going to have. So, for instance, we like to have everything uniform. Mm-hmm. If we were doing, let's say, paper minis, for instance, we would have everything paper minis.
Yeah.
But then
we committed to the money.
We committed to paying for shit, which was a very expensive endeavor, and I kind of regret it now.
Love it. No,
well,
love it.
Yeah, I guess we're just raised differently.
Yep. If I'm committing to a hobby, I commit to it to the full degree and spend all my money and all my salary on that hobby. Really should have filed these down. I mean, that's another topic. When it comes to painting, do you spend the time to file down your minis? Because I know for Warhammer you have to, because you're cutting them out and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas D&D minis / WizKids are pre-done. So the only thing we have to do for these sort of minis is glue them to the black base, which are provided in the sets.
So I'm the one that normally puts it together, the minis, because it's at my place and I have all the tools and everything. The reason I don't file down, or the reason I don't prepare them, and I say that with air quotes, is because in D&D, it's less about what the mini looks like. It's more about what it represents.
Yes, 100%.
I think when it comes to, let's say, Warhammer, for instance, on one mini, I'm spending 2 hours with prep, and then I'm spending 4 hours on paint. And that's like a very exaggerated term, but it's like that sort of percentage. But because it's an army builder where I need everything to look the same, I want it to look very pristine, and it's a premium price of $80 for a set of 4.
Yep.
I invest that time into it. It's like $1 per hour ratio. Yeah, looks cute.
Yeah. Can't see because damn camera won't focus.
Well, let's see if I can focus it. But like with D&D.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so there you go. There's your little ox boy.
It's coming along.
I think you need to paint his horns a different color though.
Well, yeah, I just painted an all over base.
Yeah. But with the D&D ones, because the players that we have aren't super into having minis, they just like having them as a representation of their characters. And the scenery is already 3D printed, which has its seam lines for the different layers.
Sometimes we don't even use the scenery. Sometimes it's just the whiteboard markers.
Sometimes just whiteboard markers. It's less of a necessity to have things look very pristine.
Yeah. And
I think well that's my argument as to why I personally for our collection anyway, I don't file it down. I don't straighten if you want to pull out the frost giant that we have.
Yes.
And then so sometimes the downside with these minis is that like the axe, for instance, is wonky.
Can you go to focus again? There we go.
Yeah, so it's not straight.
So you should be like this.
Yeah.
But because of the way that they're packaged, sometimes they can get a bit weaker and that kind of stuff. And then there's certain I'm trying to find somewhere where we could have filed him down further.
No, the big ones aren't too bad, but it's the little ones.
The big ones are pretty good. This is one of our beautiful painted ones. I got really frustrated with it. I didn't like how it was turning out, so I had Doug finish it. Yeah. I enjoyed painting his little horned skull, but that didn't end. Versus our this is a pre-painted bought mini. Can you do it? I can't get to do it. There it goes. These ones are pre-painted, so we didn't paint these. They come with their descriptions on the bottom, and in their boxes they have what number you can get out of them, which is really cool. This was out of the Storm Giant Thunder. Anyway, it's out of a campaign where you fight big old giants.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like that.
So what I'm trying to say is that like the reason I don't, because I know it's this easy fix to straighten out the bent swords and shit, but because people don't really care, they just want something that represents what they're fighting or who the character is, they're not going to complain that the sword's a bit wonky or the spear's a bit bent. And I that's why I like painting these. It's less stressful. When it comes to Warhammer, I can only paint 1 or 2 minis, and then I'm like, I'm hyperventilating by how stressed I am. But when it comes to D&D, I slap on like 6 paint different colors, and I'm sorted. Like that's all I need to do. Yeah.
I don't think I have a red that I want to paint him. Maybe just a lighter brown.
Red? Why are you painting him red?
Like a reddy brown.
What?
Like a Highland cow, like a ginger color.
I don't want a ginger cow. It's not a cow either. It's an ox.
Yeah, but it's like a cow.
I mean,
I'm gonna make my own color.
You say potato, I say tomato. So.
Yeah.
That's also a red brown.
No, I want it darker though.
Fuck. All right, I forgot that you're a little pretentious piece of shit. So we have how many Warhammer paints? Hundreds.
A lot.
And you don't have the one color that you need?
Yep, because you can always buy more. Oh, I didn't shake that.
No, you didn't.
So that's a little bit about the sizes. Brands of paints we talked a bit about. You said there's an Army Painter brand as well.
Yes, Army Painter. We use Army Painter for undercoating, and we use it for our clear gloss for the varnish for the outside once we're finished with it. And the reason we do that is because it's the only one that's cheap and it actually works pretty well. I know there's like you can just get floor varnish and that sort of shit, but I'm gonna pay a little bit premium to get a nice finish on my minis.
Again, because we like to spend monies.
Yeah. So Army paint is another alternative. They also come in like sets of the actual paints, but again, we don't know it, so I'm not going to even touch on it at all. It's just, go with what you're readily available and is in a good price point for you.
Most people who are listeners in Australia, we have our Warhammer shops, which they've now been rebranded to Warhammer as their logo.
You know, Warhammer's an international brand, right?
Yeah, is it that's what it's called in America? The shops?
That's what it's called everywhere.
The Games Workshops.
Yes.
Over there are called Warhammer.
This,
I'm learning something today.
That's the new brand.
There you go. Well, I didn't know that. Now I do.
I'm going to get a light tan, like a skin color.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch out for my hairy arm.
Maybe I'll paint it.
So, for anyone interested...
That is not the color I want.
This is what my little mini that I'm painting looks like.
So far. See it? Yeah, I can't get it either. You can. Maybe further away. No. So for you listeners out there, we're also recording for our YouTube channel if you would like to watch us paint as well. And we can't get the camera to focus. So
I mean, I can get it to focus on the bigger things, but when it comes to my
little ones.
Also, I'm really satisfied with this sound. It's not picking up, but it's like the liquid of like the...
No, it's not picking it up. You can hear my bones cracking because I'm old. Oh.
This is why all the technology stuff is next to me.
Yeah. We'll be posting a photo of our setup and you can tell that Doug doesn't trust me with anything.
I mean, they haven't seen what your dress looks like after you go out to dinner, so...
Yeah, it's a mess. We go out for pasta and I leave with more pasta than I ate. That's the colour I want.
That wasn't a sentence.
Yes, it was.
I leave with more pasta than I ate? You mean...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I wear more pasta than I eat, yeah. All right, I'm gonna shush for a second. I'm just gonna focus on the outside.
I mean, I guess then I'm talking for a bit. So I'm very new to painting. I've got a lot of friends out there who do paint. I've got a friend who won Australia's... I don't know the title, which is very rude of me, but he did win an award for his painting skills in Warhammer, which is pretty impressive. And they look absolutely amazing. I mean, you've seen them. He spends all that money on putting the tufts of grass on the bases of the mini and that kind of stuff.
Doing that is called basing the mini. Fun fact.
There you go. Learning as well as doing this. And it's just phenomenal work. Like, some people can spend so much time and are so flippin' talented. I can't. That's why I like to paint animals, because it's about 3 colours. I can paint aggressively. The only things I have to focus on is when I paint their eyes and ears. And most of the time I end up making Doug do it.
Can I just make a point that you just said that you paint aggressively and then you complain that I tell you not to use my $40 brush?
Listen.
Interesting.
You didn't have to know that. All right, for the listeners out there and not Doug, I don't paint aggressively. No, I paint very aggressively. You can see me now. I'm just like ruffling him. He's not turning as red as I wanted him to, but I'll accept that.
It's a cow. It can be...
He's a mooey.
He's a moo.
He's a moo-boo.
So another thing, if you've seen any of our photos online, you see that we don't like basing our minis. And that's just a design decision that I made
together. Well, I mean, you made it. And
because I didn't want to do it, yeah.
Yep.
The reason is this. When it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, and this is kind of similar to Warhammer, but with that, it's different because you're spending a lot more money, so you might as well do it. Mm-hmm. We take the base of the mini as we say it's a portal. Yep. So we say that the mini is coming out of the black circle in the ground, which is what it is. And that's why we don't base it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're committed to a foresty ground, a civilization, that sort of thing.
Sand or tiles and that kind of stuff. So all of our minis that have a base are painted black. So, for example, we have an unpainted... Do you want to... Oh, did it itself. Look at that. So this is an owlbear for any D&D people out there. You'll notice that the base here is grey. That's how they come. You stick them to the black base, which is provided. When we paint them the grey base black, so that you're not focused on the base per se. It's got nothing to do with the base, and it's all about the mini itself. So this is an owlbear that I painted a while ago. It's probably one of my favourite ones that I've done, just because I even got the face pretty good. But you'll notice that the main focus is him himself and not what's underneath him, which is, again, one of our design ideas. Well, Doug's design ideas. I just went along with it because I wasn't going to base our minis, Doug was. And that's another thing, again, with pre-painted bought minis. They don't actually come with
so the pre-painted
bases.
ones aren't...
It really doesn't want to focus.
They aren't based either.
No.
So then if we're trying to keep uniformity, we either have to A, base every single mini we've ever bought, or B, make them look as uniform as possible by not doing the bases. Mm-hmm. It kind of bugs me that the pre-bought ones have that thicker base bottom. And I think at one point, if I can be bothered, I'll probably slice off all the bottoms and put them on the flat discs.
Yeah.
However, I just can't be fucked right now.
The effort into that.
Because the whole point of having the black mound is to make it the same thickness as that base.
Yeah. Oh, we lost focus. I think it's trying to.
Yeah.
So these are some other minis that we've painted. Doug painted these ones. Thriken or Threaken. We call them Treaken.
Treaken, yep.
Because we're lazy. This is one of the pre-bought ones. You can see the harsh yellow, whereas Doug has gone for a more softer brown and then tattooed each of them. So each of our Treakens actually got their own individual tattoos. Where's this one? It's on his arm. So that's something that he's done as well individually, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't know why you keep bringing up the tattoos on them.
I love it.
I just did it to make them different instead of all having the same fucking color.
I love the idea of the tattoo because I feel like it's like a tribal. I don't know where this paint went. There. Tribal design, which is really cool. I'm going to now paint my little Oxy Boys horns. So I'm going to use a Screaming Skull.
Well, I still just paint the two colors that I've done.
When it comes to painting, Doug and I noticed that we paint in two very different styles. Doug works from the head down, whereas I normally work from the feet up when it paints minis and stuff.
Normally I have my painting handle, and this is really cramping my hand.
I don't know why you didn't get it.
Because I've got an unpainted Warhammer mini on it. I didn't want to take it off in case I bumped it. Oh my god. Yeah.
No, that's really
as you can see, I like to start a lot of projects and not finish them.
That's all of us. But we're here now. We're also talking about it. We've accepted our problems, mistakes.
I think for this one, we might even not upload it to the audio and we just have it as a video, because this would be so boring to listen to. Because it's like, hey, look at this thing. And then it's us for 30 seconds trying to focus the camera.
Trying to focus the camera. No, but when it comes... Okay, here's a way to talk a bit more about it. Washers. You like using washers. We both like using washers. Why do you like using washers?
Okay. So when I painted Warhammer back when the Lord of the Rings tabletop game first came out. And then if anyone remembers back then, there wasn't the different types of paints. So if you wanted to make a lighter shade of something, you had to... Or like, for instance, a watered down version of, let's say, Goblin Green, which was one of the skins back in the day. You had to make it yourself with like a paint thinner or something. Mm-hmm. So I painted during that time where putting the effort in... Yeah, well, I'm talking as well, sorry. I painted during that time. I'm like Link. I can't do two things at once.
Two things at once.
I painted during that time when doing the details took much more effort than just whipping on a shade and then it's just call it done. So when we jumped back into painting and they introduced the base coats, the layers, the edge highlights, and then the shades on top as well as technical paints and everything. This is Citadel. It was such a thing of relief. So instead of like having a brown that I would dry brush on and then a green that I dry brush on top of it to make a grassy effect, I can just get a single paint, dip my whole brush into it and just like slap it on, and it works from there. So I think it was a convenience thing. And from having that, like if I went and pulled out, I'll show you after the podcast, I'll pull out one of my minis from back in the day where they didn't have shades, and then you'll be like, this looks fucking disgusting, but I'll be like, yeah, but it took me 12 hours to do that. And then you'll see one that I do now in 20 minutes and you're like, that looks 10 times better because of this shade. That is why I think shades were a great invention. Yes,
because on top of that, they not leak, but bleed into all the small cracks and crevices that you just can't. I mean, I know some experienced painters probably can, and they have their special magnifying glasses and all that extra stuff that does that for you. We're not that technical, but the washers allow to get into those nooks and crannies to bring out the layers and the depth of the mini itself to... Oh, God, that's really not in focus.
Why'd you?
I don't know.
It stopped recording.
Yeah,
that's
I
why.
noticed.
This is why we should either stop doing the camera or get a different camera.
Yeah, well, if you want to help us out, reach out and let us know if you would like to fund for a new camera so you don't have to watch us fiddle with one forever when it comes to painting.
So we should probably do a shout out. We're at 30 minutes right now. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Imaginary Adventures for the past month, and it's about to end now, which doesn't matter, but it was really...
still do it. There's a few days left.
So what they did is they gave us a code for 20% off at checkout on their online store. So if you go to imaginaryventures.com.au and you select some things and add it to your cart, if you enter the code Rocket Tabletop at checkout as a discount voucher, you'll get 20% off the total transaction. That goes till the end of January, so you got a couple of days left, and you spell that as ROCKETTABLETOP at checkout, 20% off till the end of January. Thank you very much.
Yes. For all of you out there, most of our minis actually comes from Imaginary Adventures. We have spent, I don't like that brown, a lot of money on D&D minis. We'll post a bit about that on our social media, some of our collections. You've probably already seen a few of them anyway. We love buying minis, an excessive amount of them, to the point where we've doubled up, because I have a problem where I'm like, I just need to buy this one. It's the last one. And Doug's like, you don't need it. And I'm like, I do need it.
You don't even go here.
I'm like, you don't understand how important this is for me.
It's worse because I deal with the minis and they're all here, and I tell you we have this one and you go, no, we don't have it. And then we have an argument of, yes, we have this one, and I have to prove it to you by photo evidence, then receipt evidence.
Yeah.
Just so you believe that we actually have these several minis that you purchased.
And then I sulk about it, and then I'm like, well, we can always just use doubles. And then we end up with doubles. So the slads, I think we ended up having 6 different slads.
Which is okay because they come in different varieties, so that's fair enough.
And they normally come in like multiples, not just like, you don't verse just one slad. Normally you have a few of them with you. So we use that to our advantage, or at least I'll tell myself that to make myself feel like I can justify the purchase.
The one thing that we like to say is that if you're purchasing minis, don't worry about getting the generic humans that have the different poses. So like, you don't have Paladin causing a spell effect, then you have a Paladin with shield up, then you have Paladin with sword up.
Not necessary.
Just get a Paladin, and that can represent a lot of different things. You can have it as a town guard, as adventuring hero, as villain, like with extra abilities. The ones that I say that we need to invest in is the different races.
Yes.
So one thing that I encourage for Jazz is that if she ever finds like Tabaxi different molds, I say, purchase them. Purchase the different
Genassis.
Yeah, anything like that that's not the generic humanoid. And so right now we're pretty solid on, like Azamir's, for instance, we have like 6 or 7 different varieties of the double packs.
He's better.
The one that I think now that we're lacking is dwarves and halflings.
Yes, because I keep buying full-sized
people. Yeah. And so that's going to be our next investment for like our next big purchase. If you see our social medias, you see that we just do big bulk buys of minis, which includes like our dragons or our krakens or whatever, as well as 50 other things. But yeah, coming to our next big shipment, it's going to be a whole bunch of dwarves and shit. So hopefully, Imaginary Ventures, if you're listening, you have a whole bunch of stock, because you will run out.
Yep, we're going to buy them all.
Son, you're going to run out. I talked a little bit quickly about how when it comes to the Warhammer, I invest a long time in prep, and then in painting, and then in coding and basing and everything.
Your girl Jazz doesn't.
What would you say is the average of mini to time ratio for you?
For me, because I tend to stick to like big bulky things like the giant and the owlbear and like horses and stuff. I don't know how long we've been painting now, half an hour, probably 40 minutes to an hour and a half is like my base time.
See, like yours is almost done, and I've done 2 colors.
Yeah. Like that's the comparison of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, get that base coat on. And now I want it in a different color. I'll dry brush with this for a little bit. Yeah. I enjoy painting, but I feel like my time, I try to rush to try to justify my time spent, if that makes sense. So I try to get as much done as possible in a short amount of time. Sometimes I'll paint multiple at a time while I'm waiting for like one coat to dry. I'm painting it a different color. No, I don't want a black. So most of the time when I paint, I'm painting multiple minis at a time. But Doug was like, maybe just stick to one today.
Well, I just don't think we had enough. Firstly, we didn't have enough time for this. We're gonna be painting a bit this afternoon, try to demolish some of our backlog of minis that we need to paint.
So bad.
If I finish one by the time you finish 3, I'm gonna be pretty happy. Yeah.
Because like I think the next couple that I'm painting are gonna do another horse, because you can never have too many horses, especially when you have your party of 8 and they've all decided that they wanted to go buy horses. I've also got an equivalent of a horse, and I've got a mule, or another version of a horsey boy, pack mule, and then I'll probably finish it up with another sled, because your girl bought a lot of slads and she likes how scary they look. So for anyone out there that isn't going to focus, it is not. I wish it did. We like to pre-paint a lot of our minis. There it goes.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Listen.
All right. You're actually going to talk for a bit?
I know that these are advertised as pre-based minis.
Pre-painted, yeah.
I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
I think we have like our collection that we've coated already in an undercoat, and then we also have our collection that are still to be undercoated, and it just fucking pisses me off. And everything needs to be the same. Yep. Everything needs to be the same coat. I've got my Warhammer minis that I've undercoated both black and white. I've done zenithal highlighting for them. But then I've got these ones, which I'm just doing black so we can pump them out. But then at the same time, we just keep buying fucking more minis, and we need to keep fucking undercoating them. And I've gone through like 3 spray cans of fucking black undercoat.
Yep.
Because you keep fucking buying them.
Because I'm like, look, Doug, look what I bought. And you're like, Jasmine, no. And I'm like, accept me for who I am.
I remember one
in
time.
In sickness and in health. This is my sickness.
One time when you said that you wanted to spray paint undercoat them, and I said, yeah, okay, cool. This is the technique. You said, okay. And there was a pool of black paint under all the minis.
All over my hands.
It was everywhere.
Just everywhere.
It was
happy with him.
It was the funniest thing I've ever had to clean up, was just you trying to undercoat.
I wanted to do it because I was like, I'm buying the minis. I'll clean up my mess. Doug, I need some help. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
When it comes to D&D, this is just D&D at least. There are a huge range of minis. So if you ever hop on Imaginary Adventures, like, where do you start? There's a lot. My favorite thing to buy when it comes to minis is the monsters. Monsters are my absolute favorite. We have a very large collection of different monsters. If I had the option of buying every monster in the monster manual, like as one big pack for like $2,000, I absolutely would. Because it meant that I had everything and I would be happy, because on the off chance that we ever run into that monster, I need a mini for it. So that is my justification for it. But if you ever want to dive into minis and you're not sure where to start at the beginning. Buy a humanoid, buy your class that you're playing as, and go for there. You don't have to base it off Pinterest, but if you have no idea how to paint or like what you want to paint it as, make a Pinterest board. I definitely love to do that. So for one of my characters at the moment, Octavia, she's a fire genasi. I've got a little Pinterest board of all my inspiration for her. Too bad it's not loading at the moment. But like the first one I have is this fire boost. And then I normally base it off that. So I take my mini and I try to do similar things that I find in my photos and paint from there, which is really cool. But Doug, you don't do that. You have it all up in your head, don't you?
I like purples and I like pinks, and then I normally paint some browns because D&D is very dark.
Yeah.
And then if I need to make a monster, it's an orange. And
Doug's favorite color is orange.
That's what I do.
And he didn't discover that until we started dating. And
what the fuck was that?
Gross, dating couples. No, and started dating, and he was like, I don't like orange. I think I don't have a favorite color. I'm like, everything's orange. Can you open that?
Yeah, I'll open it in a second.
I'm a baby, and if I open it, it's gonna pop everywhere. I can't.
Why are you doing black?
For his eyeballs.
He has black eyes?
He is now, and he's gonna have a little black nostril and a little black mouth, because I don't want to paint it red, because then it looks like he's a scary demon. Thanks.
Sure, whatever you say. Whatever you say, sweetie. So as a comparison, we've got a lot of minis here that we've pulled out. Mm-hmm. I like painting the scenery stuff because it can be used as a multi-purpose sort of thing. So if you're watching this on the YouTubes, you'll see that I have this from Lord of the Rings from back in the day, brown base, actual statue of ruins.
Come on.
We're not a makeup channel. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, but I realise why they do it is so it makes focus.
Yeah. But then we just bought a pre-painted WizKids Waterdeep Cemetery.
City of the Dead.
Sure, whatever the fuck it was. And this is what you get for that. And they look fine together, but at the same time, I still think having the unpainted version that you paint yourself gives you a much more what you're after look.
Yeah,
and
satisfying.
We like the darker stuff, not for any particular reason, like we're emo or anything. It's just
that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yeah, most of the painted graves and stuff had a lot of moss on them.
Yeah, can
you don't paint moss?
Pass me the 2 caravans that we have actually?
Mm-hmm. We made a post about these the other day.
Yeah, which one of our followers,
shout out to America.
Yep, who called it which one was the right one. So we have this one, which is from an unpainted caravan set from WizKids, which Jazz painted. And this is the one that came from a painted version of the exact same set. And they both look fine. They both work as Caravan X. However, we had much more fun deciding on what colors to do for this one, even though they look very similar now with the purple sides and everything. But we had much more fun having the unpainted one that we painted ourselves, aka Jazz painted herself, than just purchasing it. This one is more of a convenience to us because it's already done. Don't have to worry about basing it in X, Y, and Z. But I will never not remember you crying about what you would paint gold and what you would paint purple.
And then when it didn't work the first time and I kept making mistakes and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And now that it's finished, I'm like, I really love that caravan.
So I think you just need to
just start painting.
I think you need to get an idea of what you want, either it be unpainted or a painted one, and you need to stick with it. And if you find them on special, if you find them at a convention and it's super cheap,
like we do,
then pick it up.
Spend your money.
Yeah. Otherwise, just do what you're after. And especially now, Hero Forge, which is, we don't go off Hero Forge. We like customizing our stuff on Hero Forge and then buying minis ourselves. But Hero Forge now currently has the new campaign for fully colored minis that you can purchase off their site.
Yes, which is awesome. I think they're all they've got painters on set that paint them all individually off memory.
Sure. I didn't do research. I just saw the ad and I said, cool. And I logged off the internet.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great idea. It is a lot of money that you're investing, but at the same time, you're saving money on not buying individual paints that you might only use once or twice. Like if we pulled out our array of random rainbow colors that we have 6 different shades of green that in D&D we haven't used. In Warhammer, I've used a lot of.
Yes.
But I would not recommend doing the same thing for just the D&D minis unless you have a thing for it.
Mm-hmm. That's what watering down and using whites and blacks to darken and lighten colors does.
Yeah. And yeah, like it depends on the person. It depends on what you're trying to do. Because I've done this for so long, I've accumulated a collection of it and I'm okay with that. But like if Jazz was saying to me, if we weren't dating and she said, I want to start painting, I would say start small and work up from there.
Oh, the washers over there.
And washers are underneath that layer.
Yay. So for anyone who is watching YouTube, I'm going to now wash my cute little Oxy boy. Do you think in a brown?
That's a red.
Then yes, I'm going to paint it red because I wanted that red overtone.
Red undertone. As you can see from my arm just sitting here, I've given up on painting because I can't concentrate. Jazz is going to continue doing it.
Yeah.
We're just going to do another quick shout out to Imaginary Ventures yet again. Number 2. Thank you very much. 20% off at checkout if you use the code Rocket Tabletop till the end of January, which is 2 days from now. Mm-hmm. So get it while it's hot. They just got a new shipment of gargantuan and giant monsters.
I know, I'm going to buy some.
But do that now while you can. Otherwise, just listen out for any other sales or just purchase them full price because they're super cheap.
Yeah, follow them on all their social medias. They post very regularly when they have sales and when they post about new content. So if you're like myself and Doug who enjoy buying minis all the time and you want to know when there's a new set coming out, that is the best way to do it. They also have Pathfinder. They have some Star Wars. I'm trying to think of like some of the other minis.
They have Starfinder.
Starfinder?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which is the sci-fi Pathfinder game.
I shouldn't have done the wash on his little antlers.
Well, it's too late now. Just go back over it with a highlight. And then someone asked you one last question because we're almost at the maximum capacity. Favorite thing to paint and why?
Animals.
Purely animals.
Because I always play druids in all my campaigns. I'm super original like that. I tend to always use wild shape whenever I can. And so I'm constantly turning into wolves and bears or horses or bears or bears. So I need as many of those as possible. So I feel satisfied that when I when I wild shape, I have that mini representation of what I look like. What about you?
I was going to say people. Like I really enjoy painting people with giant swords and armor. I think that's really cool. But right now I'm just going through a phase of different things. I don't really like painting the same thing too much, which is kind of why I stepped back from Warhammer. Was like I didn't like painting an army worth of the same person sort of thing. That's why D&D was so good. You get 2 minis, $10, and then you can paint it however you want. Right now, like I said, I really like painting terrain, obelisks, which if you saw my YouTube video from back in the day when you were away, that's sort of stuff. And like houses, or I just tried to make my own dangerous terrain of like entangling roots and like this arcane ritual sort of thing. But things like that I can add to my campaign as like an additional source. Like hot glue is a really good way of doing that. Or we have a lot of boxboard foam, cardboard from back when I did architecture. Like we've got all the resources for it. I just need to cut it up and actually do it. But yeah, anything housey, anything terrainy, that sort of stuff is awesome.
I think I'm almost done.
I think you're almost done. And I think we're almost done as well.
Yay! Thanks for listening, guys. Apologies if this isn't sort of the content you were hoping for.
Also, sorry for not having a podcast up last week. We were away on holiday.
Yeah, we had a much needed break after the Christmas retail period. So we took a lovely week away where we just went and bought more minis.
Yes. So if you want to get in contact with us, just follow us on any social medias.
Rocket
Tabletop on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube as well if you're watching this. And always, if you want to ask us to do anything, talk about something specifically, you can contact us via email as well at rockettabletop@gmail.com. Other than that, I hope you guys have a good week.
If you liked this video, please check it out on YouTube for all things visual, and let us know if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, we'll go back to our normal stock standard podcasts.
Yes.
Thanks.
Have a good week.